am 82 years old, and I spent my best years trying to prove I was enough. That is the simplest way I know how to say it. And at this age, simple is all I have the strength for. When you are 82, you can feel the narrowing. Not in a dramatic way, just in small things. The doctor speaks a little slower. The mail comes with more hospital logos on the envelopes. Friends disappear quietly, one by one, and no one is surprised anymore. I wake up most mornings before the sun. The house is still. It has been still for a long time now. I sit at the kitchen table with my tea, and I think about the years when this place was loud, when there were shoes by the door and voices calling from other rooms. I thought I was building something important back then. I thought I was becoming someone. I did not realize I was always on trial. I grew up in a house where praise was rare and conditional. My father was not cruel, just distant, a man of few words and firm expectations. When I brought home a report card with all A's, he would nod and say, "Good, keep it up." If I brought home one B, he would ask what happened. It never felt like anger. It felt like evaluation. I learned early that love came attached to performance, or at least that was how it seemed to me. So I became careful with mistakes, careful with how I spoke, careful not to disappoint. I thought that if I could just be impressive enough, steady enough, useful enough, I would finally relax. I would finally feel chosen. In my 20s, I married a kind man named David. He had a quiet laugh and patient eyes. He did not ask much from me except that I sit with him sometimes on the couch in the evenings, that I tell him about my day. But even then, I was already running. I took a job at an accounting firm. It was supposed to be temporary, something to help while we saved for a house. I told myself I would scale back when we had children. I told myself there would be time for everything. There is a phrase I used often in those days. After this quarter. After this quarter, I will rest. After this quarter, I will visit my mother. After this quarter, I will take a full week off. There was always another quarter. When our first daughter was born, I held her in the hospital room and felt something raw and enormous open inside me. I remember thinking, I will do this differently. I will be present. I will not make her earn me. But habits run deep. I returned to work sooner than I had to. I told myself it was responsible, sensible. We were saving for a bigger home, for college funds, for security. Security was my favorite word. I missed small things first, a school play where she was a tree in the back row. I had a client meeting. I told her I would be at the next one. She nodded. Children forgive easily in the beginning. There were birthday parties where I arrived late, still in my office clothes. I remember standing in the doorway once, heels in my hand, cake already cut, children running in circles. She saw me and smiled, but it was the polite smile of someone adjusting. I noticed it. I just didn't stop. My second child, a son, was quieter. He did not ask where I had been. He did not tug at my sleeve. He went to his room and built things with blocks. Later it was model airplanes. Later still it was silence. I told myself they were fine. We had a warm home. We had food on the table. We took one vacation every summer. I sat in the sand with my briefcase once, answering calls while they swam. I thought this was what adulthood required. At work, I was reliable. I stayed late. I took on projects no one else wanted. When a promotion came, I accepted it with a tight smile and a heavier schedule. I remember the day I got my own office. I closed the door and ran my hand over the desk. I thought, now I am someone, but the feeling never lasted. There was always someone more capable, more polished. I compared myself constantly. I adjusted my voice in meetings. I dressed carefully. I monitored my tone. I was exhausted, but I called it ambition. David would wait up for me in those years, the porch light on. He would ask how my day was. I would give him the highlights, the successes, the small victories. I did not tell him about the anxiety that sat in my chest like a stone. One evening he said, "You don't have to prove anything to me." I laughed. I told him he was being sentimental. I wish I had asked him what he meant. The cost did not arrive all at once. It came in quiet adjustments. My daughter stopped asking if I could come to her events. She started saying, "It's okay, Mom. I know you're busy." She learned the language of accommodation before she learned algebra. My son began spending more time at friends' houses. When he did sit at the dinner table, he spoke mostly to his father. I told myself this was normal. Teenagers pull away. When my mother fell ill, I visited her on Sundays, always Sundays. I would sit by her bed and check my watch when I thought she wasn't looking. She once said, "You always seem in a hurry." I said I had responsibilities. She nodded, as if that explained everything. She died on a Wednesday afternoon while I was in a meeting. My phone was on silent. I saw the missed calls an hour later. There are some hours you can never re-enter. That was one of them. At her funeral, I stood beside the casket and realized I did not know her stories as well as I thought I did. There were gaps, years where I had been too occupied to listen. I felt a thin, sharp regret, but even then I folded it away. There was still work to be done. David's health declined slowly, a heart condition that required medication, then monitoring, then more appointments. He never complained. He drove himself to most of them. I was often tied up with deadlines. One afternoon he asked if I could come with him to a cardiology appointment. I remember the exact words I used. "Can we reschedule? I have something I can't move." He said, "Of course." He stopped asking after that. The night he died, it was sudden, a collapse in the kitchen. I was home, but in my study, reviewing documents. I heard a sound that did not belong, a chair scraping, then nothing. I found him on the floor. There are moments when the world narrows to a single point. The ambulance lights outside, the quiet ride to the hospital, the doctor speaking in careful sentences. I had built an entire life on being capable, on managing, on solving. There was nothing to solve. After the funeral, the house changed its shape. Rooms felt larger. The air felt heavier. My children came for a week. They were kind. They helped sort through papers. They hugged me gently as if I might break. Then they went back to their lives. I do not blame them. I taught them how to live without me. In the years since, I have had time, more time than I ever imagined. The irony is not lost on me. I walk through this house and see evidence of my striving, the framed certificates, the awards from work dinners, the plaques with my name etched neatly into metal. My grandchildren do not look at those. They look at the old photo albums, the few pictures where I am sitting on the floor with their mother, hair messy, laughing. Those are the ones they linger over. I thought being enough meant being impressive, being indispensable, being the one people relied on for results. I did not understand that being enough might have meant sitting at the table a little longer, leaving the office before dark, letting the dishes wait while someone told a long, unimportant story. I cannot go back and test that version of myself. That is what makes it heavy, not dramatic, just heavy. My daughter calls me every Sunday now. We talk about ordinary things, the weather, her work, her children's school projects. There are pauses in our conversations that feel like unbuilt bridges. Sometimes she says, "You worked so hard for us." I nod, even though she cannot see me through the phone. I want to tell her I was also working for something I could not name, a verdict that never came. If I am honest, I do not know where the hunger started. I only know that it shaped every decision. I said yes when I should have said later. I said later when I should have said now. And now is mostly behind me. At 82, you begin to count differently. Not years ahead, but appointments, seasons. You notice how many chairs at the table are empty. I am not miserable. I do not live in constant sorrow. There is still sunlight on the porch in the afternoons. There is still tea in the mornings. But there is also the quiet recognition that I spent decades auditioning for a role I already had. If you are listening to me and you are younger, I am not here to instruct you. I have no system to offer. I only know that I kept waiting to feel sufficient. I thought there would be a day when someone would say, "You can stop now. You've done enough." No one ever said it, and I never said it to myself. David once told me, long before his heart began to fail, "I married you, not your achievements." I brushed it aside at the time. I thought he was being romantic. Now I understand he was being plain. I do not know how many more mornings I will sit at this kitchen table. I move more slowly now. My hands tremble when I pour the tea. The world feels both smaller and more fragile. If I could sit across from the woman I was at 32, I would not scold her. She was doing what she thought was right. She was afraid of being overlooked, afraid of being ordinary. I would only tell her that ordinary days are not empty, that being present is not laziness, that love does not require constant evidence. But I cannot sit across from her, so I sit here instead, at 82, and let the truth be simple. I spent my best years trying to prove I was enough, and in doing so, I miss the quiet ways I already was.